What's up, Renegade Nation? Before we begin the video, I'd like to give a shout out to our most recent Patreon supporters and YouTube members. Ethan Bergeron, The Gimpster 101, Jackie the Sexy Hobby Cook, Dark Paradigm, Tyler R., Luis Naito, Vesta X Owner, David, Nick Scholes, The Bushloft, Danny Puff, Brandon, Shad Church, Auga, Darius, Lucy Short, Vincenzo, Sega Man 92, Alan Barty, Craze Cartoon 13, John Reed, James Butterworth, Scott Stevens, Thor Yang, Katie Stockton, Otaku, Dark Paradigm, Kayla McRae, Reggie Johnson, Full-Blown Marxism, Redemption, and as always, I'd like to give a shout out to our executive producers, The Anime Hybrid and Joshua Fix. Thank you all very much for your support. If you want to support us on Patreon, feel free to click the link down below in the description to find out more. And if you want to become a YouTube member, just hit the join button, which is right next to the subscribe button. Hopefully we'll see you all there. Peace out. Nick! Oh! Nick, no! Nick, please, I'm begging you. Please. Oh, God! Ah! Hey everybody, how you doing out there? Hope you all are doing well. And this is a video actually was requested a while ago, but there was actually someone who has been requesting us to react to more stuff with to do with Lord of the Rings, because a while ago Micah and I did a top 11 dumbest Lord of the Rings moments by the Nostalgia Critic. And apparently that made a big impression on some people, and they were just like, hey, we want you to do more stuff with Lord of the Rings. Can you react to this? And they recommended this here about a few days ago, and I was like, all right, we'll give it a shot. And I think all of us here are fairly familiar with Lord of the Rings. I mean, I've read the books, I've watched all the movies, and I gotta say it's a masterclass in terms of its filmmaking. Especially the first three films, the Hobbit films. Didn't need to do all that, but oh well.
Still liked them.
Oh no, I still liked them, but by comparison to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I was just like not as likening to them. But well, it is what it is. All that being said, though. Corridor Crew, this is also a little thing, shout out to Corridor Crew as well. Congratulations on getting your all's website up, fellas. Not only that, but also they're doing the mainline support thing. They're doing like a Patreon thing on their website. And they're talking about like how they can actually like do the projects they want to do, because Corridor Crew, I mean, you've seen their stuff before with us. You've seen like their CG work and everything. We've watched a couple videos of theirs in the past. And anyway, they actually have had movie projects in the past that were moving forward in the Hollywood system, but Hollywood eventually like ran their fingers into it and wanted to make the movie their way. They didn't want to give Corridor like any leeway, and they wanted to make everything generic. To which Corridor was just like, "That's not what we made this for." And it actually was the last straw, I believe, on this most recent horror film project that they had. They had an original idea, the story. They had an original type of movie monster. They were going to do all the special effects work themselves to keep the costs down on the production. Everything was going great, and then a producer came in and said, "Hey, we're actually wanting to scale your budget back from $10 million down to $2 million, and not only that, but we also want to change up the script to make it more marketable, and we also want you to write it to make it PG-13." To which they're like, why with all these changes now, guys? We were going to start production next week. We already have everything planned out. So you're saying you're not going to give us the budget we need? And they're like, no, we're
It's already clear that producer has no business being a movie producer, because if you're going to make a fucking horror movie PG-13, you already don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Well, exactly. Well, the whole thing is, Corridor was just like, all right, fine. We're just going to cancel this, and we're going to move on to something else. Turns out, when they signed the contract, the intellectual property rights for the release to anything to do with that monster, anything to do with that story, was locked into that studio for the next 5 years. So,
of course.
So, well, yeah, because studios got to find some way to anchor in and try and, shit on everybody, because
force their will upon
Yeah.
Whatever they have underneath their thumb.
Which is why Corridor started up their own independent website. Which is why they're doing this to try and make it to where they can make stuff and not be tied to the Hollywood system. And they don't have to depend on Hollywood to produce stuff. Instead, they can go directly to their fans for I think the starting price is like $5. You know, $5 a month, and you can support them. And plus, considering that on their original channel, on the Corridor digital channel, they have I believe near 10 million subs, and on here they have over 4 million subs. So they've got a lot of fans, and if heck, a quarter of their fans sign up for that, that's enough money for them to make projects until the cows come home. So I've signed up for it, and I recommend if you all want to see awesome stuff from the Corridor crew, feel free to check out their website and give them some support. But yeah, we have this video queued up here. This is the VFX artists react to the Lord of the Rings Bad and Great CGI Part 1. I guess let's get into this and see what happens. Here we go.
I love you. Oh no, Grandpa! They did all that for like 2 shots in the film. So good. It's amazing. Oh! Straight up VFX error right there. There's a very subtle and genius thing that they're doing here.
I know some of the stuff in this because I watched the special. I watched the behind the scenes.
Today is it. Today is the episode we have been waiting for months. Lord of the Rings trilogy, my favorite set of movies of all time. This is actually the first of a duo of videos. We've got another one coming next week. Stay tuned for that.
Lord of the Rings kind of is this pinnacle of all visual effects technology leading up to like the year 2000 and the start of what would eventually become the digital revolution in visual effects.
All right, we have a lot to talk about. We'll do our best. Let's get into this. So Gollum is considered to be the biggest technical achievement of the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. There's a whole workflow pipeline they created for this movie. See, motion capture with a real actor on set with a digital character wasn't really a thing before this movie. The general way they did all of these shots is they had Andy Serkis wearing like this whitish gray suit on set interacting with Frodo and Sam. But all of the actual animation, they didn't have any of that. He's just doing all this stuff, and then once filming wrapped, like 9 months later, they had to go back and have Andy Serkis re-perform every single performance he had throughout the entire trilogy of movies after the fact on a motion capture stage.
Yikes.
Don't go getting too far ahead.
This shot blew my mind. What? Jeez, man. How do you do that?
That's real water reacting to a CG character.
Is that Andy Serkis in the water?
Right there, there's a little bit of an error.
It is. It is.
Yes.
Okay.
Somehow just throwing himself onto the rocks of this creek bed, going for an imaginary fish.
How are they painting him out?
I don't know.
Painting Andy Serkis out of that shot? Dude, that is so advanced and so tedious.
Now, the thing about painting stuff out is that you basically need to take parts of your image and paint it back in. And usually you can just find it from a different part of the image, but the challenging thing is when the stuff that you're trying to replace is moving and animated and changing every second, aka water. The water's flowing and all the splashes are there, and the artist is sitting there trying to fill in those moments. There's no crazy water simulations, there's no crazy light simulations happening.
It's just brute force hard work to get this shot to work. But you can also kind of see there's some unmotivated water splashes where his arms aren't there, but there's some splashes.
Right there.
But fortunately for a shot like this, no one's looking at that. They're looking at the motion of Smeagol like going through the water, splish-splashing around.
They didn't have him do
I was also
motion
distracted by the
capture
fish.
Very frequently, the animators would actually just animate the character based to Andy Serkis' performance in the footage itself. There's shots with nuance, like with trembles and like little micro movements. That's all motion capture. Like the Golden versus Smeagol dialogue scene, like that's all motion capture with hand animated facial animation.
Based off of the reference footage of Andy Serkis doing it on set.
You don't have any friends. Nobody likes you. Not listening.
By the way, look at that upper lip animation right there. It's perfect. The center of the lip stays put unless it's motivated by the muscles on the outside of the lip pulling it around. That's actually one of the very first things I noticed in this movie is they got human anatomy around the mouth working correctly. Like, it doesn't feel like this unmotivated, like, thing that just floats into different shapes. You can see how the face is pulling the lips, and, like, how the muscles are influencing the shape of the lips, and it feels so realistic. Gollum is a very successful 3D character. He doesn't exactly look photoreal. I mean, he looks good, but he doesn't look photoreal.
Yeah.
But yet we still like him. And I feel like it's because they've designed him to be just cartoony enough that he doesn't enter the uncanny valley. He stays on the cartoon side of it. So he's still fun to watch, and he's still lively, and he still conveys emotion.
Also, like, the movement is right. You're selling the movement of this character. It doesn't seem off. It doesn't seem strange. And that takes us...
That's huge.
So far. That's like 90%.
His loincloth and his hair, those things waving and being physics simulations on top of the movement just makes it even more real.
A lot of attention is given to Andy Serkis, and rightfully so. He performed and brought to life this character, but I don't think enough credit is given to the animators who actually have to do a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of the creation on a lot of these shots.
Yeah.
It was seeing Gollum that actually inspired James Cameron to make Avatar.
Really?
Yeah. He was like, oh, technology's finally there. I can have digital actors with real actors and make it work. Big Gandalf, tiny Bilbo, dude, hugging each other.
So heartwarming.
So this is like kind of the first moment where you really see the true like size difference between a hobbit and a wizard, aka a person.
High angle of Ian Holm or something like that. But yeah, that's a person in a big costume.
He was like 7 feet tall, an actual like huge man that they just dressed
That's a
up
huge
as
wizard.
Notice he never sees his face. It's just his hair and the hat and the robe. And so now the reverse shot.
The
now we're
insert,
seeing
yeah.
the real Sir Ian McKellen.
So you never see both of their faces in the counter shots
sure.
to one another. You see Ian McKellen's face here, and you see Ian Holm's face on the other side.
Well, sure.
And it's masterfully
Well, they
done.
had body doubles for almost everybody.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like Frodo. I saw the one for Frodo, the one who was actually like a tiny person. I was like, whoa, dude, that's awesome.
I think they had like an Indian guy that stood in for some of the hobbits in almost every. I mean, they had multiples, but there was like one main guy that did a lot of the stuff.
Yeah, I think he was the one that actually was on the was in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, I think so. Actually,
I think it's the same guy. It's awesome. He played the Oompa Loompas in the new Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Kellen with a tiny actor.
Notice the hand position is exact. They are tricking you into thinking these are all just the same moment, cutting back and forth, because they made a point of having one unique thing throughout all these different setups.
But this is nothing revolutionary. This is just simple editing back and forth.
Yeah.
Good editing. But here's the visual effects shot. The moment they walk into the door and you see the inside.
What?
Yeah,
What?
that right there is just.
Off. They're two separate actors filmed separately.
So the way they actually shot this is they shot this with Bilbo Baggins on set, the real full-size set that they built, with just a stand-in for Gandalf. The Gandalf you see here is not in the original plate.
Blue screen Gandalf. They have exactly matched the lighting of this Hobbit hole on their blue screen set. Like the sunlight from when he steps in to like that soft glow from like the left side and the ground. All the lighting is perfectly matched.
Not only are they in the shot together,
They interact.
they interact. Look at how he grabs the hat from him.
Okay, I think I saw it.
I think I saw it too. There's a
little
very
bit of
subtle
ghosting.
and genius thing that they're doing here. He passes his staff to his other hand, which is then behind his body. So the moment his elbow is behind his body, you just have a forearm, and they can cut that out and reposition that however they want. And that's what they do right there. See how it settles down? So right there, now it's a cutout arm. Have the hat now cut out.
Watch the tip of the hat. It actually distorts into place.
Yep, right there. And you no longer see his fingers or his arm or anything interacting with it. It can just literally be an image that's cut out and then moved to the right spot.
Did you see his beard clip?
Oh! There it is. Oh my
Just
gosh.
disappears.
It's just a straight up VFX error right there.
They had the chandelier as a real prop on the blue screen.
Wait, the chandelier is in the original set? That's been comped into the whole time? Oh my god.
Wow. Oh!
That was apparently real. Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And they just kept it because it was like so genuine and authentic.
Yes, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
brilliant
I
stuff.
knew that one was
Yeah,
real.
that one I knew too. Hold on, I gotta see that one more time.
It really was.
Also in The Hobbit, the scene where they throw the roll at Bombur and it goes straight in his mouth, like they got that like first take because they like didn't think it was going to happen. So like when he like lands it straight in his mouth and they all cheer, that's because they actually did it.
Yeah.
And didn't think that they were going to get it.
Oh! Oh gosh. You see, the Weta Workshop and Peter Jackson, the level of detail, intricacy, and dedication they have to filmmaking and to fooling the audience, it's spellbinding, man. I love it so much.
Had like an earthquake and like one of the giant eagles they made to like decorate an airport like fell and like destroyed a bunch of stuff.
No, gosh.
I mean, I don't think anybody died, but I just think that's kind of like a neat problem to have. It's like, yeah, we had an earthquake. Oh, what was the damage? It's like, well, this giant eagle took out like 20 chairs in the airport. It's like, oh, okay.
Could you imagine that? Could you imagine like the write up for insurance on that, on those chairs? It's just like, how did the chairs get destroyed? Well, a giant eagle fell on them. It's like, and then like the insurance company sees that and they're like, they actually expect us to believe that, and they send like a claims representative out there to check and see if that it's like, all right, what really happened? No, come here, you see for yourself. And there's literally a giant eagle that's crushed like 20 chairs, and they're like, oh, well, shit, that's awesome. All right, confirm, confirm for the insurance company. Oh gosh, God, I love this so much.
That was an accident. He didn't mean to actually hit his head.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
This is perfect.
and they just kept it because it was like so genuine and authentic.
All right. We put it away. We keep it hidden. We never speak of it again. No one knows it's here, do they?
So good.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
In this shot, Ian McKellen is on a tiny set, and Elijah Wood is filmed on a blue screen. In order to make this work, they had to use motion control. So they filmed on the set with a motion control rig, and you can do that motion again and again as many times as you want in the exact same path. It's basically a robot. But the thing is, when they filmed Frodo, aka Elijah Wood, on the blue screen, they need to repeat that same motion, but they need to scale it.
It's a small camera motion with Gandalf and a big camera motion with Frodo.
So they are actually scaling the camera's path in the computers and reinterpreting that and giving you a motion-controlled path that's been altered and scaled so that the two shots line up.
Speaking of controlled motion, though, it's not a visual effect, but it's one of the coolest techniques they developed for this film, which was the use of forced perspective with the moving camera. Now, forced perspective is the act of having like someone kind of close to the camera, someone far away.
We actually did that effect with our Powered Up video with Master Chief eating the mushroom, Mario's mushroom getting big. It's just Jake standing close to the camera in the Master Chief costume, and then our Mario standing far away.
But the thing about that type of shot is it only works when the camera's stationary and not moving. The moment the camera starts moving, it gives away that perspective.
The fires of London.
This is not a visual effect, that's entirely in camera.
Look at the smoke too in the foreground. It's like,
Oh yeah, they're proving that's not a VFX shot.
yeah. That's nuts, dude. It's so smart.
The challenging thing here is they have a table that's connecting the two actors. So what they actually have to do is the table is split into two pieces. There's a tiny portion of the table that's been made from being in front of Gandalf, and then there's a big portion of the table that's made to sit in front of Elijah Wood.
So Frodo is actually standing next to a stationary giant table, whereas Gandalf, Sir Ian McKellen's on a tiny little table, like attached to his own chair, that's actually moving on a track.
Yeah,
and it's moving in the opposite
they're
direction
tricking
of
the
the actual
perspective
camera
that
move
you would
itself.
usually have
They're
with
moving
the
very specifically in
stationary
each other
objects.
to maintain that parallax change.
They built a complicated rig, two tables, different size props, a track system for the actor to sit on, plus a track system for the camera. They
Just
did all
so
that
they could move that
in
camera a
shots.
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
That's impressive.
Meticulous artistry, dude. That Peter Jackson and his team that he assembled are geniuses. They are flat out some of the smartest people when it comes to
Well, and
filmmaking.
it sells it so well. Like,
Yeah.
for some fucking reason, when I watched that movie, I was
Plus the
just
track system.
oblivious, and I thought that they had actually got like all these little people actors to act alongside, like, you know, the full size, like, person actors. Like, and,
Well-
and I found out after the fact, it was like, oh, like these dudes are all like normal sized dudes.
Yeah.
And
Keep in mind, while Elijah Wood is a fairly short person, you know, he's nowhere near like Hobbit size
yeah,
for Ian
but
McKellen.
he's still not like, you know, itty bitty or anything.
No. And right here, the changing of the perspective, you can actually see it a little bit behind the cup right here. You can actually see like the split where it goes right there. That's the divider as it's going, and as it's going to the side, you can see it ever so slightly, the depth like dip in right there where the tablecloth, where the little cloth for the teapot is. It's
still it's impressive.
It's almost impossible to see.
It's impressive that
without,
it's that slight.
Yeah. It's
with
still.
The setup that they have, that's crazy.
Oh, gosh,
I would have never been able to figure that out.
No, and also usually cameras that have a huge depth of field like that, because right here the camera that we have has a fixed perspective of, I think it's between 4 to 6 feet in terms of full focus. That right there, that is a focus range of, I believe, 10 to 12 feet because of how far they are apart and the angle that they're being portrayed at. Usually cameras that do that don't look cinema grade, but because of the switched perspectives, they were actually able to pull off the cinema grade look with that. It's amazing stuff, dude. Truly. Anyway, back to the video. Oh,
a complicated rig, 2 tables, different size props, a track system for the actor to sit on, plus a track system for the camera. They did all that for like 2 shots in the film.
So,
Clint.
Excuse me.
I've seen every visual effects shot ever made. You can't impress me. If you think you have a visual effects shot that can impress me, leave it in a comment below, and we'll watch it, and you can watch my face and see if I react.
I also challenge you guys. Send me a VFX shot that is so bad, I do something like this. Oh my god! If you can warrant that legit reaction from me, then I'll give you a thumbs up.
Let us pause. Let us be spared. Save him.
wait, that soft mask around him?
It's like, a couple mask points, feather, doing a lot of time.
Yeah, that. There's some awkwardness to certain scenes, but overall, it's still
One of the
really
biggest things that sets Lord of the Rings apart is the fact that they filmed most of the crazy, big, spectacular stuff for real using miniatures. But not just regular miniatures. Massive, massive miniatures. This is a shot that I still don't quite understand because they filmed Frodo on a blue screen and they say that they actually filmed the whole background as their miniature. And it's a big miniature with lots of great detail. But the camera moves match between both Frodo and the separately filmed background.
That's because they used a motion control rig and scaled the camera path for all those different elements.
Notice how they add an actual actor in the background on a little blue screen actually tracked into the miniature set there.
When filming with miniatures, if they just left them as like miniatures in the shot, they felt really lifeless and they looked like miniatures. They had to add things that moved. So they have actors walking around on them. You have waterfalls coming down. You have leaves playing down in front of the camera there. And all that, birds flying. Yeah, all these things bring it to life and make it feel like you're not just looking at some static model sitting in a warehouse.
Like the shot of the Council of Elrond when they're actually sitting there and it's the big establishing shot. It's like that's all filmed on a miniature and the actual council itself was filmed on a blue screen and just comped in.
You might be wondering why that's not CG, like why didn't they just do that with a computer? The answer is because it's the year 2000.
And they couldn't.
Yeah.
Like right there, all that background there is miniature.
Okay, I do want to see, so this is a scene that like freaked me out, it freaked you out too.
Dude, I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Bilbo goes like full demon face for a moment.
I agree. And if one does just a little bit, just a taste, give it to me.
Yeah, dude, that scene scared the shit out of me in the theater.
Oh, me too. I was like 12, 13 years old. I screamed like a little girl, but also just his face. Like that right there, the change that he goes through. Yeah. Like his teeth
How
go
big
from,
his eyes get.
It's
just
whenever he
terrifying.
does like the mush face right here. Whenever he does that, his face goes up, and then you see. That's when like the CG takes over. Like his mouth completely changes, goes dark. The teeth get all mangled and weird looking. His eyes start to bulge from his head. It's terrifying. And also Clint giving Ren a scream in the ear pretty much deafening him. It'd be the same as you, like, giving me a death scream right here. And Rin is down.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
That's what Frodo experienced in that scene.
Oh, it's so creepy, man.
What? What?
I love you. Oh no!
It is, so it's definitely digital. I think he is opening his eyes really wide, but they add a lot of darkness around it and they mess up his teeth.
And they give him a square-shaped mouth, which is really interesting because it makes it feel very unnatural.
Hey, what's up? Andrew Kramer here.
Wait. Hold on.
Oh, wait, are you gonna big head him? Follow us at Corner Digital on Instagram to see this such version of Monster Bilbo Baggins.
Oh no.
Okay,
That's funny.
We got some street cred. Corridor is the only other studio in the world to have an official live-action Lord of the Rings film out there. This is the trilogy. There's The Hobbit, which is all Peter Jackson, and then Shadow of Mordor, which is us. Our video is technically canon.
Well,
Clint is actually in The Lord of the Rings.
If you guys want to see me in full body makeup as an orc hopping around the fields of Utah, then subscribe to this channel, and then go to Corridor and subscribe to that channel, and then look up Shadow of Mordor and watch that video.
we have so much to say about Lord of the Rings that we actually ended up deciding to break this into a second part. So next week, we'll finish talking about Lord of the Rings. Stay tuned for that.
Subscribe if you're not already so you do not miss one of those videos.
God, I love Lord of the Rings so much, dude. It's still one of my favorite series, not only in literature but in film as well. I mean, you see, I think Dune may eventually get up there because Dune, is a great book series, but they haven't really had a good film version of it. They've had like a
I'm
good
hoping the
campy
new
version.
one they're working on is going to end up being really good.
It looks like it's gonna be pretty cool.
Well, yeah. I mean, first off, the director they got for it, Denis Villeneuve, he's one of my favorite new directors because he did Sicario. He did what was it? It was Arrival. He did Blade Runner 2049. He's done really, really good films here recently, and they also got a great cast. They got Timothée Chalamet, Josh Brolin, Jason Momoa. They've just got a lot going for them. But yeah, I'm hoping that Dune will eventually reach that. There's very few that reach a level of impact in both literature and visual filmmaking. You see, because if you can portray the visuals that you see in your mind whenever you read something, and the people see it and they're like, "Oh, that's very similar to what I thought it would look like. That's very similar to my visual interpretation." If you can give people that, then you've effectively just you've blown them away in more ways than one, because it that's why I like filmmaking so much.
Mental interpretation of literature is always just way fucking off from what it ends up looking like when people make live action versions of it.
Fair enough. That's
why I think most of my favorite stuff, other than I guess Lovecraft is probably one of the places where that didn't happen to me, and most of the stuff that I looked at after the fact, I was like, that not too far off from what I imagined, but like most of my favorite things are actually graphic novels and manga, because I just prefer them to show me what they're talking about rather than
you prefer to see the
to
visual
paint a
medium
picture that for some reason
portrayed.
my brain creates inaccurately.
Well, you prefer to see the visual medium portrayed by the artist in some way. Whether the artist does the work himself, or, well, for instance, it's just like Alan Moore. Alan Moore was never that great of an artist. He was a great story writer, but he always had someone come in and do an interpretation.
It's either that, or if they can
what he
actually
thought.
describe it in the way that Lovecraft describes his stuff, because when I was reading the descriptions of his things, like, I played like Dark Corners of the Earth already and seen a bunch of Lovecraftian things already. And when I started reading the descriptions, like, I was like, oh, that's that thing. Like, that's exactly what that is. Like, so.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell. Like, he just does a better job than a lot of other literature writers that I've, heard try to describe settings and creatures and stuff, and then end up seeing other people recreate them, and it's nothing close to what I thought it would be. It's just the detail, I guess. I don't know.
Well, well, everyone's got their interpretations of stuff. Like, for me, from now on, whenever I imagine, like, dark fantasy stuff, like, really, really dark stuff, I am always going to see that stuff by Zdislav, the Polish artist we looked up when we watched the Stranger Things video the other night. I am always going to see those images now. I'm just like, whew. Because they're harrowing, dude. They're just, it's intense.
Death metal album covers.
They are. They're quite literally death metal album covers. And the fact that this artist came up with that, in like, what, the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, when nowadays people are using that and are just like, whoa. Just it blew, like, I can only imagine how it would have been received back then versus now. Now people would see it and be like, oh, that's very well done. Versus like in the 70s, people would look at it and be like, burn it, kill it with fire.
Yeah, I'm sure there were a lot of Christians that were just like, this guy paints pictures of hell and the devil.
Well, shoot, like there were people on payroll in the Middle Ages for the church that's all they did was paint like demons molesting people. And
oh, God.
Surrounded by fire. I mean.
There it is. Basinski. Zdislav Basinski. Some of his work is just like, this is stuff that he painted in like the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. This just like that. This one right here. Yeah, that's just horrifying. 1971.
Like death metal album covers.
Yeah, like look at this stuff, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Really similar.
Look, just Jesus. That's amazing. Like that kind of artwork was out in the 70s and the 80s, and the man died in 2005, and it's crazy.
Like that one on the left, the very first one.
This one?
That looks like a Born of Osiris album cover.
Let's show this. Yeah.
Now look up Born of Osiris's album art.
Okay. Born of Osiris. There we are.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah, very. You can see the inspiration in some way. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
That album is a masterpiece, by the way. That's
Discovery?
one of my favorite albums of all time.
Nice. I'll have to give that a listen. And y'all, hey, y'all should give that a listen
Jason
too.
Richardson played with him on.
Oh yeah?
Yep.
Jesus.
He's an insane guitarist.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it for this. This was VFX artists react to Lord of the Rings bad and great CGI. This was mostly great CGI. I didn't really see anything bad in this. Just a couple.
Yeah, the only one they really pointed out was like the weird,
the beard disappearing and.
Well, yeah, the beard clipping through, but that's so unnoticeable.
Yeah,
little water splashes, like so unnoticeable. Like, and then the bad clip, like of the mask around.
Yeah.
But other than that, like.
Mostly, this is just like great CGI.
It's impressive for something that came out in like 2001. Like how fucking good it is.
Insane, dude. Absolutely insane. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it. So until then, I'm Nate.
Micah.
I'm Nick.
We'll see you then, everybody. Peace out.